Hi guys. So I wanted to go over what the idea of a political cartoon is and what a propaganda poster is, because the next few questions are going to ask you to quickly analyze those two, and not everyone might have examined a political cartoon or a propaganda poster in the past. And we are specifically going to be looking at some propaganda and political cartoons in World War I, but even more so in World War II. So this is definitely going to be a quick introduction to it, and we'll get a little more in depth later on in this course. So what you see here on my screen is an example of a political cartoon. The next question here as well is also an example of a political cartoon. So a political cartoon is essentially a drawing done by an artist placed usually within newspapers, and it is making some type of commentary on the political news of the day, social news, economic news, and political cartoons usually poke fun at something. They're very satirical. So it's kind of like making a joke, but a very educated joke. They tend to exaggerate a lot of features and items and things to help get their specific point across. And again, it's also very one-sided usually in what you're seeing. So let's take a look at this political cartoon a little more in depth. I'm going to pull up a bigger picture here. So here we see the political cartoon. Now, it is making a comment about one of those causes of war that you're going to see when you get to that question. So it's showing us an example of one of the causes. I'm going to give you a little bit of helpful hints because the cartoon very much relies on you knowing kind of the satirical and stereotypical dress of different countries. So all the people here are representing different leaders within different countries who are about to go to war at this time. So we see here, we see this very small man. Look how small he is in comparison to the others. And his dress is representing the Serbian nation. Okay? Then we have someone who's a little taller. So try to think of maybe what the size has to do with the nations. And this is representing the Austria-Hungary country as well. So now if we look at the topics here, it says, if you touch me, I'll, if you make a move, I'll. So they're commenting back to one another. They have clenched fists. Back here, then, we see a bigger person, and it is very much to represent the stereotypical furs and dress of the Russians. Then here, we see this pointed helmet here. This was a helmet that was used by the Germans. So when you see that helmet with the spike on top, that is something that usually symbolizes Germany. Then back here, we have people further behind, and we have someone representing France. So that cap, again, is very in the style of what the French army was wearing. And then back here, we see a man even further away. He's got a little bit of a pot belly there. He's wearing a three-piece suit with tails, and he's got a top hat, and he's representing Great Britain at the time. So if all these individuals represent different countries, and you read the text at the top, what cause of war do you think they are trying to convey? So that is how you break down a political cartoon. You want to look at the figures that are in it. You're going to look for some stereotypical nods in it. So in this example, it's the dress that they're wearing. And then you want to examine the writing as well. And again, it's always going to make some type of statement on the politics or economy or society at the time, and it's usually fairly exaggerated. So the next one that you're going to examine is an example here of a propaganda poster. So propaganda is essentially the spreading of ideas, and it's very one-sided. So it's the spreading of ideas to convince others of your idea. So if you are very pro-World War I or pro-war, you are going to create what are called propaganda posters, so essentially advertisements that are going to try to convince others to be on your side. So they are very biased, meaning that they're only showing one point of view, and it's usually in support or against something. And similar to political cartoons, they use very exaggerated and stereotypical theming, drawings, costumings, icons throughout propaganda posters. So I'm not going to examine this propaganda poster exactly. We're going to examine another one like it. So here we have one, and when we look at a propaganda poster, the first thing you want to do is definitely read through it. Look at the words. So for this one, enlist is big, bold, red. It stands out against the yellow backdrop, and we can read it here. We have some locations within France, and then it says, new names in Canadian history, more are coming. Will you be there? Enlist. So we know automatically this is an enlistment poster, and they're trying to convince people to enlist. Then we look at the imagery, and we see a Canadian soldier, probably an officer, an upper ranking man, and he's got his hands out trying to bring you on in. And then we have what was used as the Canadian flag at the time. So we have the Union Jack, a symbol here representing our nation. We don't have our Canadian flag with maple leaf just yet. So again, this picture and this poster is trying to convince the reader to enlist. So it has a specific audience. So try to think, who would that audience be? Who can enlist at this point in time? And look at exactly, really overall, what the message is and what the feeling is. Propaganda posters are meant to convey a feeling as well. They're supposed to get you on their side, and they're supposed to elicit some type of emotional connection to it. So think of the emotions that are being tied to this propaganda poster. Then, like the one within our slideshow here, think of what emotions that is trying to convey, what they're trying to make you feel, and how does that connect to one of our causes of war. So that is how you quickly go over a political cartoon and a propaganda poster. Like I said, we'll go over it more in depth probably in World War II. But for now, this is a good entry into it. And if you have any questions, please let me know.